This is J. Krishnamurti's third public talk in New Delhi, 1969.
This is the last talk. As we have been saying in the past two talks, how very important it is that the human mind, which has lived for so many millions of years, should radically change and condition itself, and only then the many complex problems of existence can be resolved. And to find out whether the mind can uncondition itself from its animal inheritance and the social, economic pressures and cultures in which it has lived, the superstitions, the beliefs, the divisions, the strife that it has acquired during these millions of years. Can the mind undergo a radical surgery, a fundamental mutation, not only of the structure of the brain cells themselves, but also of the quality of the heart and the mind? Whether such a mind can live in the midst of chaos, brutality, and violence which modern society is, free to function undisturbed, quietly, without any resistance, without withdrawal from society. This evening, if we can, I would like to go into this matter. Because one observes, if one has lived long enough, not through books, not through magazines and newspapers and the sacred books and the philosophies or the psychoanalysts, one observes the tremendous necessity to bring about a fresh mind, not the mind that has had 1,000 experiences, not the mind that's caught in the pattern of a particular religious, social, economic culture. One observes endlessly this pattern being repeated throughout history, changing little bit here and there and thinking that is tremendous revolution. We go from the communist to the fascist to the capitalist to and so on. The economic, social revolutions which are really no revolutions at all. As one observes and I hope you do too. Not as a Hindu or a Muslim or a Sikh on all that stupid division, but as a human being living in this world of confusion, which is round you, in yourself, in this world of great sorrow, of ugliness, violence, a meaningless existence. One wonders whether the human mind, that is yours, can really transform itself. For in that alone is the solution of all our problems. The problems of love, the problems of reality, if there is or if there is not, God or truth. If human beings can live together without conflict, and to find this out, not verbally or intellectually, but actually with your heart, with your being, to find out, there must be freedom. Freedom to look, to inquire, to perceive. And that surely is the first thing. Freedom to observe. Because that freedom is denied when there is any form of prejudice, any form of conclusion. Any ideation, belief, and above all, fear. If there is any form of fear, obviously the whole totality of the mind, which is so extraordinary, is incapable of seeing. You know, technologically, we've gone to the moon. That's an extraordinary achievement. Our brains are capable of it. But to go to the moon, to acquire that immense technological knowledge, mind must be free to look, observe, search, ask, doubt, question. Not accept anything. But inwardly, we are slaves. There is no freedom. We repeat the same pattern thousands and thousands of times. Sociologically, religiously, economically, and so on. Repeat, repeat. And so inwardly, in the psyche, in the very depths of our being, there is no change at all. We are modern monsters. And so, is it ever is the mind ever capable of this tremendous, insistent, immediate revolution? So that it can live with a new quality. So that there is not this drive for pleasure, which is entirely different from the beauty and the flowering of joy. The two are entirely different. Pleasure is never joyous, because in pleasure there is always fear. And a mind that is not ecstatic cannot be free. And pleasure is the product of thought. And thought is always old. Thought is never new, thought is never free. Though thought may talk about freedom, write volumes about freedom, politically make extraordinary speeches about freedom, which is all sheer nonsense. But thought that can never, at any level, be free, because thought is the response of memory. And memory is always in the past. It has its roots in time, which is of the past. Please observe this in yourself as the speaker is talking about it. Don't merely agree or disagree, that has no value. So, a mind that is yours, the human mind, which is so astonishingly capable, which can do most extraordinary things, has never set to find out for itself whether it can ever be free. Freedom essentially from fear. Because we are burdened with innumerable fears. And a mind that is burdened or shaped by fear and pleasure, because they're both almost synonymous. They're these two sides of the same coin. And to find out, one must observe. Observe the fears one has. Not condemn them, repress them, or escape from them. To observe. And in the observation, to see there is no division between the observer and the thing observed, which is fear. To observe it without the past, the me, the I, who is the observer. Do try it as the speaker is talking about it. Because we are going into something very, very complex this evening. If you don't do this at the beginning, you won't be able to follow what's going to come at the end. I don't know what's going to come at the end either. But one can see that a mind that is frightened cannot possibly have an acute, clear, unconfused mind. And therefore it can never know what the quality of joy is for the ecstasy. And we're going to find out what it means. Not verbally, but actually this evening. If we can, if you have the capacity to sit quietly, not scratch your heads and fidget about, to listen so intensely, to go into this question. As we said, there must be freedom from fear. Not only at the conscious level, but the deep layers of the mind in which the so-called, the unconscious is, which we haven't time to go into this evening because we'll just touch it, take a little journey into the analysis of the unconscious and the conscious. You understand what I'm talking about? You know, most of us are incapable of analyzing ourselves. To analyze step by step, inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, so that you are very clear. You must take a little journey into it and to see the utter futility of it. You understand? The futility of analysis can only be understood, observed, if you have analyzed little bit, taken a journey, a very short distance. You know what it tastes like, what it feels like, and then one has to discard it completely, because the whole process of analysis is entirely wrong, if we can use that word, wrong. Because in that, there is always the analyzer. The analyzer who is the past, who is the accumulated knowledge, and he, a fragment of the totality of the mind, is analyzing as a fragment. Analyzing from what he has accumulated, either from passing few silly exams or reading some books about analysis, becoming a doctor, analyzing, and so on, so on. But to observe the analytical movement in oneself, taking a very short journey into it, and seeing the utter futility of it, gives the mind a quality of perception. Look, before we discard the whole analytical process, I'm sorry to do it in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but you will see it for yourself, what's implied in it. There is not only the analyzer and the analyzed, two separate states, two separate movements of the fragment, of the total fragmentation of the mind. You're following all this? Mind is fragmented. Our being is fragmented. The way we look, we talk, we are in fragments, watertight. And one fragment called the analyzer analyzes the other fragment. Comes to a conclusion, and from that conclusion further analyzes. But the conclusion by the analyzer is already conditioned. Therefore, his analysis, he has very little value. And in analysis is implied time. Because it will take many days to analyze. And when you allow time to enter, there are other problems in it. So, realizing all this, seeing the truth of it, the introspective analysis or the analysis by another, through dreams and so on, has very little meaning. If you are slightly or greatly neurotic, then perhaps there is very little meaning to help you to adjust yourself to your rotten society. And all societies are rotten, whether the communist society or your own particular little Hindu society. So, the analysis doesn't bring freedom at all. It's like digging more and more into oneself, and therefore caught in the pit, and therefore never freedom. Or the mind says there is freedom in heaven, moksha, nirvana, or somewhere else, which again is an evasion, is running away from this complex mind. So, to observe without any distortion, and that's only possible when there is complete attention. That is, now as you are sitting there, to listen to what is being said with complete attention, with your body, with your nerves, with your mind, with your heart, with your ears, completely attend. Then you will see, if you so attend, there is no entity or a being called the observer. Then there is only attention. This is important to understand as we go presently into it. I really don't know what's going to come out of this, but we'll try. The mind, the brain cells, have been conditioned. The very structure and the nature of the brain is to survive. That's obvious, right? The brain insists on survival, otherwise you can't exist. And has developed certain responses. And those responses are the centuries and millions of years of conditioning. What we are trying to inquire is whether the very structure and the nature of the brain itself can bring about a change in itself. I'm going to show you, not show you, we're going to learn together that it is possible. It is not an absurdity and a fanciful imagination, because imagination, all that has no place whatsoever when you are inquiring tremendously deeply. Because there is no theories, no conclusion, but moving from fact to fact. So we're asking whether the mind, that is, the quality of the mind, the sensitivity of the mind, the intelligence, not divine intelligence. Don't translate it into some absurd religious jargon or compare with what some religious teacher has said, but we're saying that the quality of the mind, which must be extraordinarily sensitive, and it cannot be sensitive if there is fear, if there is any conclusion, dogma, belief. And whether the brain itself, which is so heavily conditioned, can be completely quiet and not respond according to its old traditional way. Right? You have understood the question? To bring about a quality of sensitivity to the mind, and therefore to the whole nervous system and the body, and also to bring about a non-movement of the brain cells, a complete quietness. You understand? To bring, not to bring, that's the wrong word. For the mind to be extraordinarily sensitive and therefore awake, highly intelligent. Sensitive, awake, and intelligence. They are all synonymous, not three separate things. And for the brains to be utterly quiet, so that it perceives without the observer. Got it? This is what is meditation. To see the brain is quiet. Completely quiet. And a mind that is highly sensitive. And therefore intelligent. To come upon this movement is meditation. Now, there are many systems of meditation in this unfortunate country. That word has an extraordinary effect on people. Once, if I may be go away a little from the thing we're talking about, we were walking on the beach in California. There was a boy and a girl, almost naked, sitting on the beach looking at the sunset. As we passed by, he recognizes us and comes up and says, we shake hands and all the rest of it. And he says, each one holding the speaker's hand, he says, do sit down and let's meditate. Don't laugh. They had learned from some Asiatic gentleman Swami, yogi, this or that. How to meditate? As I was saying, there are many systems of meditation. Can there be a system to meditate? System being a method, a practice, the repetition of something over and over and over again. Does that make the mind sensitive, alive, active, intelligent? On the contrary, it makes the mind mechanical. Therefore, any system, the Zen system, the Hindu system, or the Christian system, or the Muslim, or the new system that's going to be invented by God knows who, or absolute nonsense. Right? That means the mind which practices a system, a method, a repetition of words, a mantra, is not capable of perceiving what is true. See the implication of this word, mantra. You know, that's one of the lovely tricks you play upon yourselves, or the guru plays upon you. You know, you are hearing that music. There is a tone. And if you listen to it very carefully, listen to it. Not to the words, but to the tonality, the sound. And if you listen very carefully, with attention, that sound can be produced within yourself. And the mind can ride on that movement of the tone, of the sound, right? And that gives you an extraordinary sense of movement. And that's called meditation. A repetition of set of words which produces a sound, an inward sound, and you can move or ride or be with that sound. And is that meditation? Playing a trick like that, mesmerizing yourself by a sound, or by words? Such forms of meditation, the following of systems and so on, is a form of self-hypnosis, nothing else. And if you like that game, all right. But it doesn't lead anywhere. On the contrary, it makes the mind extraordinarily dull. A mind that is not moral in the deepest sense of that word, not social morality. The social morality is no morality. But a mind that hasn't understood the quality of virtue. And the quality of virtue can only be when there is no conflict whatsoever. Then there is virtue. But a man who is trying to become virtuous, he is deadly, because he is living in conflict. So we can discard analysis, listen to that music and you won't resist it. So you can discard analysis completely, and you can discard all the systems, because systems imply authority, and a mind that is held by authority of any kind is not free and therefore incapable of observing. Then, in the so-called meditation, there is always, in the meditation that generally that's practiced, in that there is always the desire to experience truth, experience various visions, states, and so on. Experience implies an experiencer. Are you following all this, I hope? Experience implies there is an entity as an experiencer. Therefore, when he experiences, he must recognize what he experiences, otherwise it is not an experience. Therefore, when he recognizes, it's already known. Therefore, the experience is of the past. You're following all this? Therefore, the mind that seeks experience through drugs, as it is the fashion now in West, taking drugs of various kinds in order to have great trips into the heavens. There is always in the experiencer who's craving, searching, longing, hoping for experience, transcendental, super, cosmic, and whatnot. And when you're seeking experience, you'll always find them. Find them recognizable within the pattern, within the conditioning of the mind which has, and the experiencer. So there is a division between the experiencer and the thing experienced. And therefore, always searching, wanting, groping, conflict. Right? And we say, it is not meditation. Right? Because we said the quality of the mind, the highest form of sensitivity, and the brain completely still, and the quality of love. You know, love is most extraordinary thing if you have it in your heart. Love is not pleasure. Love has nothing to do with fear. It is not related to sex. May have sex, but don't call it love. So there must, the quality of the mind that is free, sensitive, intelligent, and the brain not responding in terms of the past, and therefore still, and a heart that has come upon this perfume called love. When there is all that, and in the understanding of that is meditation. That is the foundation of meditation. You're following all this? Because without it, there is no virtue. Virtue, we said, is a movement in which there is no conflict whatsoever. And there must be that freedom, that sense of love, to find out for yourself if there is or if there is not a reality. If there is or if there is not, that thing which human beings have called centuries upon centuries God. To find out, not to say, well, I believe in God. Who cares? Every Tom, Dick and Harry talks about believing in God. So does the ugly, corrupt politician. All the politicians do talk at one moment or another about God. It pays them. But the description is not the described. And to find out that timeless quality, that timeless movement, there must be the energy to an energy that has no conflict, an energy that's astonishingly awake and intelligent. And therefore, meditation is not a thing that can be practiced. Meditation is the way of life. The thing that is to be done, meditating all day, looking, observing, moving, learning. And to observe, there must be still mind. Sorry. So, the innumerable problems of life, the economic, the social injustice, the conflict between man and woman and man, the conflict between groups and social divisions, the divisions of religions, all those have very little meaning. And the revolution, the inward revolution of the mind, is necessary to answer all those problems. And meditation, in the way we have described, knowing that the description is not the described, that meditation is necessary to understand this extraordinary complex life. And we are human beings, not labels. And as human beings living in this miserable, sorrow-laden world, we have to understand it, our relationship to it, our contact with it is We are the world. The world isn't separate from us. The war that's going on in Vietnam, in the Middle East, is our war, because we human beings have contributed to it. It's not an American war or the Arab and Israel war. It's our war, your responsibility. Because you're a human being. Until we understand this extraordinary relationship in which there is no conflict, one has to understand this observer, which is you. To understand yourself is not through analysis, but to observe. Then you will say, through observation only, to observe only, without any interference of virtue. In that observation you'll find acting is seeing. When you see something, act. As when you see a danger, you act. In the same way, you see the danger, the inward stupidities of many dangers that we have. To observe them very closely is to dispel them. And so the mind becomes extraordinarily alive, sensitive. Only such a mind can find out for its whether there is reality or not. It has no speculations, no theories, no books, no teachers, no disciples. And such a mind is a mind that is aware of ecstasy. Would you care to ask questions about what we have been talking this evening?
Sir, what is the significance of inner light when they use it? Would you explain it? How should that word be taken?
How do you explain the inner life? How do you explain the inner life? Light. How do you explain the inner light? Will you be satisfied by explanation? Huh? If you are satisfied by an explanation, read a book that talks about it. Right? But if you want to find out if there is such thing as inner life, if there is inner light, you have to find out. You have to inquire. Not be caught in your traditions, lead the ordinary stupid life and say, I am inquiring. That's nonsense. To inquire, the mind must be extraordinarily free. Now, if you want to find out what it means to have inner light that's never put out by anything, by any circumstances, by any happening, by sorrow, by fear, to find such a light, you have to take a great journey, not in time, but outside of time. A journey into yourself as an observer, as merely watching. You understand? To watch the movement of your thought and your activity in daily life. When you're greedy, pursuing power, position, to watch it and see the truth of it, see the danger of it, the poisonous of it, and to drop it completely and to perceive it. So the perception, the seeing, without any distortion, is light. That is the inner light. Not some mysterious business. You know, a mind that is clear needs no light. A mind that is in darkness needs a light. And most minds are so greatly confused and in anxiety and despair and travail. They are seeking light. Their light is comfort. They want to be comforted because they are lonely. And though they pursue the guru who becomes the light, or some imaginative light, but to really come upon this strange inward awakened state, there must be clarity of the mind. Which means understand, be free of conflict. Not escape from it into some dungeon of a hermit or into a world of imagination or image. But to observe how the mind is caught in fear, in pleasure, in the values which society and oneself has set up, to observe them. Not deny them, not suppress them, not control them, but to observe them. Then you will see that the mind becomes extraordinarily clear and simple and very direct. Such a mind is a light to itself. It is no longer seeking light.
Our life, however sordid it might be, there are fragments of moments when we are...
Wait, sir, just a minute, sir.
I was saying, sir, that our
I understood, sir.
there are fragments of moments when we are so taken up by a beautiful, a fresh thing that the past is really dead. Now, why not in those moments a complete mutation comes about in our life?
Lovely.
Is it?
Right, sir, right, sir. Right.
Even
Yes. Please correct me if I'm interpreting you wrongly. Our life is rather shoddy, miserable, and unclear. There are moments of great joy, of great clarity. The questioner says, why do not those moments bring about a mutation? Right? Do you want an answer to that? Now, look. As the questioner said, our lives are shoddy, miserable, confused, unclear. That is the daily movement of our life, the agony of it, with which we are all very familiar, whether we live in a palace or around the corner, whether you go to some ashrama or live in a little house. That is the lot of our human beings. And occasionally, rarely, there is a flash of something new. And the questioner says, can that new quality transform the old? How did you come upon this sudden clarity? Uninvited it came, didn't it? Right? You didn't invite it. And you want that clarity to transform you. Right? See your greed. It came to you out of the blue, with a perfume, with a delicacy, with a movement that's fresh, innocent, joyous. A flashing second. And you who are confused, miserable, anxious, fearful, you say, please transform me. And it's gone by the time you have put it into words. It is not yours for it to transform your shoddy life. You want to transform without making a single effort, single movement. You want to remain as a cozy little Hindu with your cozy little ideas, with your turbans, with your whatever you have, and say, please transform me. You really are quite extraordinary human beings. And therein lies the great sorrow. Asking the heavens to change you. And the heavens don't care a pin whether you change or not. And that's the beauty of freedom. We want to remain in our conditioned, unhappy state, and we pray. We don't want to change. We'd rather remain with the things that we have and pray for somebody, some outside agency, to come and pacify us, to give us new vitality, new energy, new perception. I'm afraid the outside agency is not interested, because you have brought about this state yourself and nobody else. Your society in which you live, you have created it. Because you are a Hindu, Muslim, rich and, the greed, the envy, the ambition behind it all. You have made it. And if you want to change society, you have to change. Because the society is you. Sir, you have made God so very cheap. God isn't in your temples, in your mosque, in your books, or in any ashrama. It is not within the reach of any guru. Moment he says, I am a guru, finished. He doesn't know, he doesn't what it means to love and to find out what beauty is. What, sir? Wait, sir. This lady asked.
There being no distinction between observer and the observed, but there being this process of observation. Could you kindly explain if it has any comparison with what the Indian yoga system calls nirvikalpa samadhi, where the distinction between observer and the observed is not there, but only concentration or meditation?
If I understand it rightly or heard rightly, lady asks, what you're talking about, the observer and the observed, is it nirvikalpa samadhi? Some books write about. He says, some books have written, some yogis have talked about nirva, whatever it's called. Nirvikalpa samadhi. And what you're talking about, the observer and the observed, are they comparable? Right? Is that the question, madam? Yes. There is illusion when there is comparison. Right? When you have read the book, or some yogi or some swami talked about nirvikalpa samadhi, you say, and you hear the speaker, you say, is there a connection between the two? Huh? Look what has happened to your mind, for God's sake, look. Instead of listening, finding out for yourself, you're comparing. You don't know what the truth of either is. You think that is the truth because it's ancient. Some yogis, swamis, or whatever they are talked about, some person has written about it. It may be utterly false, though may 1,000 years old, but you hold on to it. And you come here and listen. And the speaker talks about observer and the observed. And your mind says, by Jove, I've heard that. Is it anywhere near the same? Which means what? You're not thinking, you're not observing, you're not living to find out the truth of the truth, not what the book say or the speaker says, but the truth of the matter. But to find out the truth of the matter, you must be free of the book, free of the description of the nirvikalpa samadhi and the description of the speaker about it. You must be free to find out. And how can you be free when you're comparing? You know, that's one of the greatest criminal things that we do, compare. It begins with the school. A is compared with B. A is so much cleverer. And B is told you must be like him. So you destroy B and praise A, who is equally stupid because he passes some stupid examinations. So that begins there, comparing. Then you compare yourself with the hero, with the saint, with the politician. I don't ever compare yourself with any politician. And you compare yourself with the image that you have created about yourself. You compare yourself with Buddha, Christ, with... Why? Why do you compare? Why do you measure? The more, the less. Why? Have you ever gone into it? Why you compare? And whether you can live without comparison. Do listen to this. Please do listen with your heart. Whether you can ever live without comparison. And find out why you compare. Is not all comparison a form of greed? The more, trying to become better. You have this saint, the image of a saint or the hero or some Mahatma or some ugly, dreadful image. And you're comparing whether you are living according to the pattern which the saint, the image, the teacher, the guru has set. What happens when you're comparing? You're not yourself. You don't know yourself. You are trying to conform to a pattern. So you are destroying. And that's why to compare is to bring about an illusion, is to strive after something that is not true. And find out, please do, spend an afternoon or an evening, find out where you can live without comparison, without using the word more, better. Never to use the word more. I am advancing, I am growing, I am evolving, I am becoming. Never comparing yourself with anything. And you'll find the extraordinary beauty in that. And you'll find you have tremendous energy, which is wasted when you compare yourself with some saint. And all saints are immature, right? They are lopsided. They have developed one particular little quality of whatever it is, and that society recognizes and makes them holy. You know what the word holy means? To be healthy, to be whole. Which means the mind clear, strong, vital, sensitive, unafraid. Not setting itself above somebody else. The moment a guru says he knows, he doesn't know. So don't compare, and you will know then what humility is. Because a mind that has no humility can never see what is true. And you destroy humility by comparing. Yes, sir?
Where you put it, that the mind is worse in fragment.
What, sir?
As you put it, sir.
What, sir? Without, are you saying, sir, without books man is in a jungle? Right.
Child is in a jungle.
What?
Child is left with wolf.
What?
Child is left in a jungle.
What, sir?
His child is left in a jungle. He says. He will become a wolf.
What are you saying, sir?
Without books, he thinks that we are in a jungle.
Without, sir, are you saying without book, the sacred books, we are in a jungle? Wait, sir, that's good enough. Without sacred books, you are in a jungle. The gentleman says, if you haven't those sacred books, you live in a jungle. Aren't you living in a jungle now? Huh? You have your sacred books, hundreds of them. Aren't you living in a jungle?
He is not talking about the sacred book. He is simply saying that some books are needed. The child needs the book.
Human mind is a flowing river. Raja gets flooded Ganges. It cannot be controlled, and no time of history masses have controlled the mind. Had it been so, there would have been no one Buddha, no one Nanak, no one Gandhi, no one Ramakrishna Paramas. We have never seen among those
Sir. You'd have none of these people you are mentioning. Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, Gandhi, who else? Guru Nanak, Lord Buddha, Lord Christ. Huh? Right. You have had them. Where are you? What is the... Sir, do listen, sir, please. You have said your say. You have had them. And where are you? You have your sorrow, your confusion, the miserable society in which we live. You have them. And you say, without them, we should be worse off. Right? Are you worse off? Do you know anything more noble to call yourself worse off? Sir, look, why do you have any kind of leader? Do listen, sirs, for God's sake, do listen. You've had political leaders, religious, semi-religious leaders, social leaders, economic leaders. Where have they led you to? Where are you now? Aren't you caught in your own trap of misery? So leave them all outside in the garden. Put them away from you and look at yourself. Not through their eyes. Their eyes may be blind. They may not see clearly. Why should you accept any of them as your leaders or teachers or your gurus when you have your own eyes? Look at yourself with clear eyes, and then you will see you will create a new world. A world which is not a jungle as it is.
Sir, one question. For a sensitive mind, the type of one you have talked about, can the two processes be not go together?
Can
Two process not go together? Process one, I refer, sir, accepting the past accumulated knowledge as a guide to action till we find it is wrong.
Right, sir. Right.
And
Make it.
second process, sir. And second process, sir, examining it simultaneously to what extent the past accumulated knowledge is wrong or right. Can can these two be not go together for a sensitive mind?
Can we not use the past in action to guide us? And can the past, what was it, sir? Be brief, sir.
Sir, can the process of accepting the past accumulated knowledge as a guide to action not go together till we find it is wrong, and the process of examining the past accumulated knowledge go together? That is the question.
The examination of the past, the process of it as he calls it, and utilizing the past to guide us in action. The two together can't they go on. As we said the other day, and as we repeat it again, scientific knowledge and accumulation is absolutely necessary to function in technological world, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be able to do anything. All scientific knowledge is based on more and more accumulation. Now, he says, can't you do the same with regard to yourself? You have accumulated knowledge, the past, the tradition, the history of man. Use that, the past, in acting. Right? Use it. Let it act as a guide. Now see what is implied in it. Don't, please, take sides. Just look at it. What is implied? You will see it for yourself. That is, living is a movement. The present is a movement. The present has its own challenges. New, all the time new, which demands action. Take in this world, in this country, there's a tremendous challenge going on of poverty, overpopulation, the brutal activity of the politicians, and so on, so on, so on. The division of the gurus, all that. That's a tremendous challenge. And you come to that challenge with your past knowledge. Right? And you say, that will guide me. Your past knowledge has produced all this. You are a Hindu, Buddhist, you have divided yourself. So your past knowledge cannot possibly help you in a new environment, a new challenge. How can it help you? Sir, look, sir, please look. The world demands a unity of mankind. Right? Unity of mankind. Not the Sikhs to the Sikhs, the Hindus to the Hindu. Unity of man between America, Russia, China, you, and unity. Now, how is that possible? If you say, it's only possible as long as I hold on to my Hinduism, my nationalism, my particular prejudices, the communist, socialist, capitalist. Of course, such a division will never produce a unity of mankind. Right? So one must be free of the past to answer the new challenge. And you can only answer the new challenge if you are no longer a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Christian, a Sikh and Muslim, which is the past. And the questioner says, can't you at the same time examine the past? Who is to examine it? The analyzer, who is himself the past? So to observe the thing called, the analyze, you must have a fresh mind. A free mind to look. Not hold on to your particular tradition, particular family, particular name. It has no meaning. So look, when the house is burning, when human heart is crying for something new, you say, well, let's examine the past. No, sirs. You must have freedom. Freedom from the known, which is the past. And then you'll act in a different dimension altogether. Right, sir?